So here we have the cable torso rotation. So a couple of things before we start. In terms of the way that I've set up this cable stack, with the free motion here, we have the ability to change where the front and where the back cables are coming from. So what I've done is set this front cable out so that it's basically in line with his left shoulder, and then I've set the right cable to be in line with his right shoulder. And what that means is, within this neutral position, the moment arm to the axis of rotation is largest, meaning there's the most torque demand in this position. And then as he rotates around into his weaker positions, the moment arm is dropping off, and thus the torque demand. Another point I need to make, with any exercise that we're trying to create a rotational challenge, we need 2 lines of force. And all that does is make sure that there is only one axis of rotation. So as you can see, this left cable is pulling Luke's shoulder forward. This right one is pulling his right shoulder back. And that means that there's this axis of rotation that's running through his spine right in the middle. You can't replicate this exercise with just one cable, for instance, doing wood choppers, etc. In terms of setup, we would have already tested his active range of spinal flexion, active range of spinal extension. So in that instance, I've just got Luke to sit within a plane that he is kind of comfortable in, so kind of halfway between full extension and full flexion. And then we would have already tested his active range of rotation as well. And we're just going to make sure that we do stay within those as we're going through the exercise. In terms of setup of the hips and the legs, again, we're going to have to make sure that the hips are anchored into place, so we don't want any rotation or movement coming from the hips. What can help with that is if I cue Luke to adduct or squeeze his legs as hard into the bench as possible, which he's going to do now, that will create a lot of stability around the hip joint and thus help us to do that. And then all I'm getting him to do is think about rotating just around that one axis, and we're going to start going into the left-hand side. Really nice and controlled and slow through this movement. We're going to pause at that end range of active range, and then we're going to slowly control the eccentric, going back round into the right. And the whole time here, he's just thinking about activating through the trunk as much as possible and imagining all of these guys rotating his spine as he goes.